Mairys Joaquin, and I play Nicola.
Hi, I'm David Kaverman, and I play Lola Simon.
Hi, I'm Thadd Krueger, and I play George.
I was just really excited to play this iconic part. You know, a lot of people know it. It's been on Broadway for years. And I think the thing with Lola is she gets to be showy, she gets to be flashy, but there's also so much teaching that she does with, you know, with Don, with Charlie, and there's like so much vulnerability that she shows too. So I was really excited to show those sides of myself and, you know, kind of dive into like serious things, but also still being able to be comedic.
When I saw the script, I was really excited because my character is one that is very misunderstood. And so I think Nicola is a character that's often kind of portrayed as almost like a villain. And in a lot of ways, like reading the script was like, this is absolute garbage. Like, she's just an independent and strong and honest person who knows what she wants. And so like humanizing her and bringing that kind of softness to her that she actually does have because she does love Charlie. That's why she's been with him this long. And so getting to kind of humanize her and bring a little bit of like levity in some ways into her character, but also like make everyone understand too, like that part of the message of this show is everyone having sort of self-acceptance, and how it shows in her character as well. Her fully accepting herself and knowing who she is kind of a driving force for her the entire show. And I think the rest of the characters kind of come along with that later on, but like she's been that force from the beginning. And so it's a lot of fun to get to play her, and I get to break up with Charlie every day. So like that is the best.
I was excited because I had emailed my friend who had played this role on a tour and in another theater, and when I saw the script, I wasn't sure. I'm like, I'm not really sure which part I fit into this show. I said, which part do you think I fit? And I had seen the Broadway production, but I had forgotten a bulk of it. And he was like, you're George, 100%. And I said, well, what about this Don character? And he was like, no, nope. And I was like, oh, okay, well, why? And he explained it. So for me, it was looking at all the characters, I was like, this is the part that I feel like I can bring the most to.
Well, I think I'm lucky in the fact that I've gotten to do this production before in front of a different audience and community. And so I think the beautiful thing about the show is that it is a living, breathing organism that changes based on where it is. And I think that it impacts the people of the community in completely different ways based on the makeup of that community. And so seeing the magic behind that is something that I find super exciting every single day.
When the video came out, the first interview video with you, there was a YouTube comment there that had said something about just what our taxpayers needs, and a show about drag queens. And I thought that's exactly who needs to see this show. And it was sort of representative of what this particular community that you mentioned, really, there's some people obviously that need to see this and receive the message of it.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And I will say, just for me, I think the costumes. You know, there were so many that were made for me and for other people in the cast. And, you know, it's just not maybe necessarily what you would think of from the show, from seeing it on Broadway. And so I think that is also exciting that, you know, we're not trying to copy anything. We're not trying to replace something. We have created our own version of Kinky Boots, and we're having a blast. I think the biggest message and takeaway is really just the message of acceptance. You know, I think if the audience can just realize, like, oh, and it doesn't even have to be accepting of gay people, you know. Maybe that isn't your cup of tea. Maybe you came to see the show and really weren't sure what it was, and you were like, you know, it doesn't jive with my beliefs. But there's still so many people in your lives that you could accept for X, Y, and Z reasons. And I think the more that you do accept other people, you really start to accept yourself more too, you know? And I think it's just a beautiful world when those chain reactions start happening within ourselves and with other people. So yeah, I would say acceptance.
Inclusivity, acceptance, and I think Cyndi Lauper and Harvey Firestein were very smart in how they crafted it, because you are entertained, obviously, and it's such a magnificent, beautiful way, while the message being very clear from that show. So I think it's great.
Yeah, and I think like part of the fun and the joy of the show comes from that message. And if you apply that to our lives, like the amount of joy and love and laughter and fun that we can have when we look at our fellow man and actually accept them for exactly who they are. Doesn't mean that you have to agree with them, doesn't mean that you have to do what they do, but you accept them as a human being and allow them to live and thrive. And like, if we all embodied that, how much more love and fun and spectacular our lives would be.
Sure.
I think the hardest thing always when you're doing a show is to figure out the pacing. Yeah, because you're switching between these emotions really quickly. So how do you find the balance with things? But I think it's not really necessarily hard because humans are like that. You know, you walk into work and you're like, it's going to be a great day, and then so-and-so says you're late with whatever, and then all of a sudden you're pissed off, you know, or angry or whatever. And so it's really like, I think what the great thing about this show is that the characters are written in a human way. Of course, they're, you know, exaggerated to be funny in some moments and things like that. But I think we all know moments where, yeah, you're like, wow, I just went through like 5 emotions, like big emotions in like 15 minutes. And I think that is part of the realness of it. Mm-hmm.
I was thinking earlier that because we've been doing the show for so long, that I've lost that sense of like, wow, when we were in rehearsal, or like so many of your songs, I'm like, you know, I would be in rehearsal like trying to cover up that I was crying. And now I've almost become numb to it, and the thought occurred to me in yesterday's production. I said, I'm gonna, at least for the next week and a half, want to bring back that like wow factor, you know, like I had never seen you in that white dress before.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
For me, I think it's about kind of similar to what you were talking about. It's about making sure that I remain present, right? So like that, it can be really easy to kind of phone it in and do your thing and say your lines and just exist in your character's like linear path, but like you are a part of something so much bigger. And so like I find that when I'm not on stage, I'm often like in the wings, like paying attention, like actively in the story, because it kind of grounds you so much more, and you can see what role you play in this story so much more, and you feel so much more connected to like the entire like cohesive machine versus just like I come, I park, I bark, and then, you know, leave and come back again. Like I think it's all very much connected, and like I try to remind myself of that by like just getting my butt up here to just like be present with everything else.
I was thinking also too that what a wonderful show to be back. I wouldn't have picked a better show for myself with the pandemic. You know, I hadn't performed in 3 years, and I was like, I'm so happy it's this one.
Yes.
Yes. It's so much freaking fun.
Yes.
It really is.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the only time I'm going to say pandemic is right now. Because, you know, sometimes you're watching TV and it's like people are referencing it and it is real life, but sometimes you go to things and watch TV and watch movies to forget that because
Yes.
we're all living it. And I think this show is just so colorful. There's some surprising moments in it. So I think, the entertainment value of that is important. But also it makes you feel things. I mean, so many people have just told me, like, you know, oh, I cried and I never cry at stuff, or, you know, or this part, it really made me think of my own dad, or, you know, trouble I'm having with my siblings or things like that. And it just kind of reminds you that these themes, even though it's told through a lens of kind of queerness and the drag community, it's also told from Charlie's lens too, which is just like the straight white man, and to see how those two sides are so similar because they're human, you know, is, I think, the genius of this show.
Yeah, I think the world is very heavy right now. And I think we can all use a spoonful of sugar to make the
Yes.
medicine go down, you know?
Sure.
So,
And that's what this is, for
yes,
sure.
This is definitely your spoonful of sugar. And I think that people, when you have a little bit of joy and levity, people are more open to it and are more receptive to it. And then they realize, oh, wow, okay, there was a little nugget of goodness in that, but like it just felt so good, like, you know, versus obviously there are topics and things going on right now that you can't really lighten up, right? And so having a space where you can in the theater and still, you know, get an impactful message and come out having a great time, like that's the tea, that's right there. That's the tea right there.
Absolutely.
I think people can see their own lives in it because we've all had those sticky situations, and you know, relationships aren't just one thing. They don't stay the same, they change. And so I think another beautiful thing about the show is that it invites you to change your mind. You know, maybe you thought a particular way about something, or a particular group of people, or a particular way about yourself, like I can only be this, when maybe you could be so much more, but you just have to give yourself the space to do that and give other people the space to do that too, because we evolve. And really that's what we want. If we were all the same way we were in elementary school, what a world.
Growing.
Yeah.
I had a lot of confidence in elementary school. So
Well, maybe for you it'd be better, but.
well, no, I think like part of the human experience is connection, right? And so like what makes life worth living are the connections we make with people. And so I think part of the wonderful thing in theater is that it's a microcosm of our lives. And so you can see like a mirror, like what is happening with you or the people that you love, and you can always find those commonalities. And I think being able to do that and serve almost as a blank canvas for other people to do that is like an honor, truly.
Mm-hmm. I just wanted to talk about our understudies and swings that are in
Oh
the
my
show.
gosh.
Because I think, coming back in the it's still in the pandemic, but really just in
You
theater
said
in
it again. You
general.
said pandemic.
Oh, I did say pandemic
Can't
again.
remember.
I apologize.
Pandemic Lovato.
Yeah, there's all this new slang now. But, just, and we have had a lot of understudies that have had to go on and different things. And so our show also has been different because of that. And that's been really nice. But it's also just a reminder of how much work goes in on our side, and even sometimes from the audience's perspective, people that you're like, oh, okay, that was cute, they moved that table, but you don't realize they also know, maybe one of the lead roles or something like that, and particularly in this production, we've really relied on them to step up and keep the show going. And and for us it's fun. I love when understudies and swings go on because they bring a new energy, they bring new ideas on what the character should be, and so yeah, I find myself finding new things all the time, which makes it great. And unfortunately, we don't have like another month to keep doing it and finding more and more things, But yeah, it's been really fun.
Agreed.
I mean, I guess it would be different for me if an understudy went on and we had a lot of complicated dance lifts and they were lifting me and I had safety
Right.
involved. I think maybe I'd be more stressed. But in this case, it's just we're saying lines to each other and kind of riffing off of each other. But yeah, I think. It's also how like quick changes go, and I have a few of those in the show. It's like the more stressed and uptight you get about it, usually the worse it goes. So I think that's for me that with this show and just the stage I'm in my life, it's like you just kind of have to take things where they're at. Maybe you wanted it this way, but it's not that way, so you have to deal with it where it's at. And that happens with, when people go on. Maybe they said lines wrong. Well, you can't be like, well, that was wrong, and I'm not going to say it I'm not going to say my line until you say the right thing. You just have to go with it. And I think really having that kind of to just like go with the flow mentality
I like that too
good.
because it keeps me on my toes.
Mm-hmm.
Or like what boot wasn't given to me when it was in, and I was like, okay, all right, I'm just gonna roll with
Yeah.
this, and no big deal. It kind of forces you to listen more and be present more. As you
Yes.
said.
And I think when you're the primary person, you know the show, your track well, so you have the flexibility to adapt, where the other person is really just trying to do their best and act and maybe hasn't had as much rehearsal as they should or as that you do. So you kind of have to just like, lead them,
Yeah, so true.
This is my first show back since 2020. And so I knew that it was like such a big part, like, Lola sings a lot, there's so many lines, there's choreography, and when I'm off stage, it's changing clothes. So I took that whole month before to like build up my stamina again. That's the biggest thing I was worried about. Like, will I be able to sing this eight times a week? So, I was singing it, taking voice lessons, and really trying to drill the lines into my head. So by the time I got here, I could just play with everybody as opposed to like just trying to cram and being so focused on myself, But I think the biggest thing with resilience is, it takes a lot of energy to do live theater. No matter what role you are, it just takes a lot of energy to do the same thing every day. It's like I always tell people, imagine if you're at work and you work in an office and your boss made you write the same email, worded the same way, and then you had to get on the same Zoom and everybody made the same joke and then you had to say the same conversation. And that's what we do essentially, but we're making it look like we just came up with it on the spot. And that does take a lot of energy. So getting used to that again, and trying to keep that fresh and alive and keep yourself entertained every day does take strength. And I think that stamina was the biggest thing for me to kind of get used to.
I did the same thing. I memorized all my lines before I came here, but what I didn't prepare for was the physicality of it. And so I had a small back injury and had forgotten just how physical theater is. So and you know, I think because I've spent the bulk of my acting career just going. In this case, because I had not been performing for a couple years, I thought, okay, I've got to really start stretching. I've got to start doing physical therapy. And I'm not doing anything. I'm not even, I'm not heat except for that one time. But so my part is easy in that way. But for me, it was like, not having performed, I wanted to make sure that the physicality of my body was up to par to be able to do it.
Yeah.
I think, I got to do this show last fall, and it was one of the first shows I did coming back, and so I definitely had that same feeling as y'all. But I think, like, this time around, I just feel really lucky to get to do what we do. There was a really long time where there really was, it seemed like there was no hope or a prayer that we were going to ever get to speak loudly and sing at people ever again. And to get to do this, and to get to do this again, and to get to do a story or share a story that is just so relevant and so important to who we need to be as a people to make it through these times, I feel really, really, really lucky. And I try to remind myself of that every single day. Like, there are days where obviously, you're, as a human, you want to kind of phone it in. You're like, I'm tired. Like, but like, take the 2 seconds and remember that just 2 years ago, it was a very different world. And the prospect of you potentially being able to do this, it wasn't as clear. And so the fact that I get to do this every day, like, I feel so freaking lucky.
I said the same thing to a cast member earlier in the production today, and said, when I came out, there was the matinee audience, and I thought, they were really quiet. And I was like, Thadd, remember when 2 years ago you thought you would never do this again? And here they all are. It doesn't matter if they're screaming or if they're quiet. I want to give them and have the blessing to be able to perform.
But yeah, I think the reason why we love theater, it's like I was acting over I said pandemic again. I was acting over the break, the interlude. Yeah. But it wasn't in front of live people. So when you add that in, yeah, you can definitely feel the energy, and we always get the love, at the end of the show, whether the audience maybe wasn't laughing as loudly at certain parts or whatever, you can always tell they're listening because they're still reacting in the right places. And for me, as long as the audience is listening, it doesn't really matter what reactions you give, although I will say it is really fun when the audience just feels like they're letting their hair down and just having a raucous time with us, because we are like, it's fun for us, we know you're having fun, and now let's take this to the next level, all of us. But I just, any audience that comes, I'm like, thank you.
Yeah, and like, obviously we're sensitive to the energy, but like, silence isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like, when I'm coming out to like rip out Charlie's head, and it's dead silent, it's great, because I feel them with me. They're just like, oh no, and they don't dare say a thing. And like, that's also a show of them like being with me. If they were like all ruckus, that would not necessarily be like, an appropriate reaction. So I think you kind of have to take them for who they are and what they have to give you at the moment, and also like connect with them at whatever level that is, because it's not necessarily always going to be the same, and that's okay. And you can't be completely reliant on what they give you, but also be aware that like, it doesn't always have to look or feel a certain way, be a certain loudness or whatever. Like, they can be with you, and it can be quiet and intimate and focused too. So yeah. As long as they're there live, they're giving you energy. So safe. Like, you're Gucci.
Yeah. You're Gucci. Yeah.
I've never been in high heels before, and I maybe should have put them on before this show. So, and Megan backstage was telling me, you want to lean forward, you want to film. I was like, why didn't I ever put heels on before I had to do this? Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah, we should have probably had a heels class. But
like a heels master class.
Yes. Yeah. But for me, I think in rehearsal, I just tried to wear the shoes as much as I could and longer than I should, because it's like, then in the show, now from rehearsal, it was like so painful in the beginning. And now it's like moderately painful. Some days are worse than others, but most of the time, I don't even, like they feel like a glove at this point. Like, they're just so second nature. It's like, I almost feel like I'm in flats the whole time. And I mean, part of that is because I'm changing shoes so much, so that it's not feeling like the same shoe every time. But for me, that's also great. I mean, this is the first time I've ever got to play a gay character on stage or a drag character on stage. So it's just like really fun to, explore, I'm playing feminine, I'm playing masculine, I'm, on top of the world, I'm insecure, and it's just so fun to like stretch yourself that way, because as actors we really do feel all those things pretty much every day, but it's great to be able to do it on stage.
Yeah. Also, you just have to like numb your feet with pain and get them.
Why didn't anyone tell me this?
I mean,
it's like, why do you put yourself through this?
Because it's really pretty.
Yes.
I mean, even as a woman, I don't normally wear heels. I'm 5'6", so I'm a model. I don't need them. No, I'm kidding. But like having to wear them for the show and like dance in them and move around in them, you're like, oh, okay, yes, this is the thing again. But like, just like with everything else, a little bit of practice, a little bit of pain, we're good.
Yeah, they say beauty is pain, so I take that a little bit, I guess.
Like a little.
Yeah.
Tear rolls
Yeah.
down cheek.
For me, it's the makeup though. It's not the heels, it's the makeup. Having that every day on is hard on my skin, and just being here in Colorado where it's just dry.
Yes.
I feel like for me that's like the biggest struggle, is just keeping my skin from feeling like it's gonna peel right off. Yeah, and for me, I'm here usually an hour and a half before the show, and that's not including the stuff I've done before to warm up my body, stretch, and then by the time I get here I'm doing makeup, warming up my voice, and just getting yourself ready to for me, I don't really operate on the same energy level that Lola does, so it's also having to ramp up your energy. Sometimes at the end of your day when you're like, oh my gosh, I had to do so many other things and now here we go, but it is fun, and the joy with this show is that you just leave in a good mood. It's just an uplifting show. The music is so fun. So even on those days where you're like, oh, I hope I can get through it, by the end you're like, that was amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah. And that's in large part to the audience, the adulation of it all.
Well, I think like our jobs are different in the fact that like we are the instrument for our jobs. So like we are literally like preparing ourselves so that we can be at a place where we can be really present and responsive and be able to like do all the things we have to do as this character, and they're not necessarily things that you can do when you're rolling out of bed.
Yeah.
So like I feel like it's interesting but also so much fun that I like feel like I'm just like preparing my vessel, so to speak, so that I can be super present and aware and alive in this moment, creating this like very living, breathing, beautiful thing with all these other people.
It's comparable to being an athlete. Like, it really is.
Oh,
I'd
for
say.
sure.
Like, yeah.
Yes, especially in this show.
Yeah.
I've had to wear ankle braces sometimes in some of the shows. People have had back injuries. It really is. It really just takes a toll. I mean, people don't realize that we work 6 days a week, so we only have one day off, and usually on that day you still have things to do. Life still goes on. So working that schedule, I always tell people it's like we're running a sprint. We're running a marathon at a sprint's pace when you do theater, and especially with this show, it just goes so fast. There's so many things, there's so many components to it, so you really do have to figure out how to pace yourself and take care of your body. And again, then that's after the show. Maybe you're icing your ankles, icing your knee, resting your voice.
I thought I was the only one with
No,
my ice pack on at night.
Yeah, it's like sometimes it's preventative to keep injuries away, and sometimes it's really just I'm trying to just get through this week till the day off, and hopefully I can reset myself. But yeah, it's
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I have my cousin is coming on Friday from Las Vegas to see the show. I'm so excited, and I've been going to the Hydra massage chair at Planet Fitness every day. And it's basic. If you don't know this,
I know it.
Oh
Yeah.
you go like I was like, okay, the next time I'm in Kinky Boots show like this, I'm gonna be every day.
Yes.
It's like it literally heals you of the show.
It is good. It is good. Yes. No, I know. We need. It's
She's
like
looking.
I know. I was like, I want a Hydra massage.
we need facials.
we need facials, massages.
That's right. That's right.
It's a busy
Yeah.
Monday.
Always been interested in like being in drag, and I've never been in drag, and some of the angels said they'll put me in
Are
drag.
they gonna do it?
Hopefully.
Yeah.
But I love being around them, and they make me laugh all the time, and it was an experience that surprisingly I hadn't had. And I was like, I just want to do shows with drag queens for the rest of my life.
It's fun. Yeah, it is fun. I think for me, what I'm going to take with this, just personally, is, you can do more than you think. I think having had the time off and then coming back, it was like, you know, do I still got it? Can I do this? And really just with a role like Lola, you can't be shy, you can't be reserved, you just have to come out and do it. And there's so many parts to it. I think the biggest thing for me was I was like, are they gonna laugh? You know? And so but also, you know, maybe they don't laugh, but you still do it anyway. And so for me, the thing that I'm taking is, yeah, you can do it. You can do it.
For sure.
I guess for me, two things. Like, our work is very important and our work is very fun. I kind of view what we do here like church. So like, this is our like Sunday sermon for everybody, like complete with like, you're the pastor, like,
And we're the
you know, so
disciples.
like,
Amen.
exactly.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like the way that we connect with the people in the community every day with every single show, I think it's so important for us to get this message of like self-acceptance, but also like a self-acceptance that will allow you then to accept everyone else. And I think that is the key. I think if as a human species, we all kind of tattooed that on our arms, we would be in a lot better place. And so like understanding that that's super important, but also this is super fun, and like we should be having fun and they should be having fun, and it doesn't all have to be negative and heavy and hard. Like, we can grow and learn and be happy and joyful and dance and enjoy sparkly, beautiful things.
Yes.
And like, and I think that's the wonder of it. And I just feel so lucky that we get to do that every day.
Amen.
I think the biggest takeaway message and what this show is so great, and I think it's great, like you were saying earlier, like reading the YouTube comments, like, oh, why are we doing a show about drag queens? It's like we're so divisive in our country right now. I think just on so many things, it's like, if you're not in my camp, I don't know anything about you and I don't want to align with you and you're in the wrong. And I think I think what this show celebrates is the rainbow of humanity. And I think I just want the audience to take away, just allow people to be who they are. And if it doesn't align with you, that's okay. Live how you want to live, and they'll live how they want to live. And hopefully us living together is not harming each other. And at the end of the day, if that's the case, if we're all safe, we can live in harmony. It's like, who wants to hear a song with only one note? We want to hear all of the notes in the scale and hear how they get really brilliantly put together. And I think if we're just expecting everyone to be just this homogenized version of humanity, it's just like, boring.
Not fabulous.
Yeah, not fabulous.
Truth.
Yeah. And I say that with not preaching, just saying like, isn't that just such a beautiful thing? Like, I have a blanket that my grandma made. I'm sure a lot of people know, like, those grandma patchwork blankets. And it's just like how much love went into that and how much care. And if you think of each one of those patches as somebody different and something that they bring, that's really what we all bring to everything. And imagine that quilt with only just one patch. It would just be a blanket with no love and care, And so, I think that's the beauty of this show. It's giving you nourishment to look at things in a different way, but it's packaged in a sweet way that feels fun to digest.
Yeah, I think kind of going off of that, I feel like there's a moment where you're with Don after the fight, and he talks about, he's like, are you asking me, basically, are you getting me to change my perspective and accept that these people that I don't know, like, are supposedly right? Am I supposed to change who I am all of a sudden? He's like, I'm not asking you to do anything. I'm not asking you to do anything. I'm just asking you to accept them for who they are, exactly who they are. Like, and sometimes I feel like sometimes we act as though if we accept someone different, that it's to our detriment, or somehow it's going to affect us negatively. Oh, am I saying that I believe in that and therefore, like, I'm gonna become, like, no. It's not even about that. It's just about allowing people to be human, just like you should be allowed to be your full expression of a human.
And one final thing, whoever you know in your life, male or female, that's wearing heels, give them props, because those things are painful.
They hurt.
Try them.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming to see Kinky Boots at the Arvada Center in Arvada, Colorado. And we hope you'll come back and see us again. You hear?